Okay, what was your question, Chris?
Okay, regarding the division of Chinese martial arts into northern and southern, where would Tai Chi fit on this? Or is that northern and southern just a Shaolin division between arts
There,
associated with the South Shaolin Temple and the North?
Hi there, friends. Welcome. This is Yoli O. This is the Daoland Healthcare Program. I look forward to see your reactions on this video anytime on YouTube, Facebook, on the Patreon. If you like to join us, that would be really great because I like to share more information with you. And also, if you can support us by sharing a small donation every month on our Patreon, that would be really very helpful to produce more and better materials. And as a Taoist, sharing is important, free material is important, and of course, there are more and more people interested in Taoism and in Taoist medicine. So, with your support, we are together supplying a lot of people with a lot of information and to get the development of Taoism in the West on a right track, and we all can become conscious contributors to the well-being of our planet.
you could say that taijiquan has a four division. So it has a north-south division, but it also has another division. And these things, they run a little bit through each other. I think the north-south division comes a little bit through the Yangtze River that goes through China, and usually the Chinese divide everything that's above it as the northern style, and everything that's below it as the southern style. And Wudang Mountain is just a little bit below the Yangtze River, so technically it belongs to the southern style. There is a northern Wudang actually, more in the mountains in Inner Mongolia, and I've always planned to go there, but I've never really found it. But it's an offshoot from Wudang, somebody who was famous there and then got chased away by the governor and then started his own Wudang somewhere in a Taoist monastery in the desert. So the same like my teacher, when he was chased away, he started something south of Wuhan and some 200 kilometers away from there in the monastery, and he started his own southern, what he calls southern Wudang. So then all of a sudden, the Wudang part in the Wudang Mountains is not anymore like, the Wudang, but it's the historical Wudang, you can say. And he said, like, this is what I would call basically, but he would say in a similar kind of fashion, it's like the Disney Wudang. Right, so everything is being propped up by the Chinese Communist Party and the army to serve as a sort of tourist attraction for both the Chinese and foreigners, right? But you see that taijiquan in general, and that is the same for other martial arts, is that above the rivers, especially in the winter, people usually are dressed very warm and they have to wear gloves and stuff like this. And also in the Wudang style in the mountains is the same. So therefore you have this division actually running straight through the Wudang Mountains, you can say.
And for this, we have to ask ourselves a few questions.
But because of having the heavy padded clothing and the gloves and stuff like this, there's not much space for the fingers to move. So the northern style usually means winter style, right? So it means that the flat hand, like the beautiful lady's hand from Zhang Fen and other people, this is actually northern style, right? Because the hands are flat and you don't have so many movements with it. But if you look at the Tai, for instance, then all of a sudden you have grappling and you have rotation and stuff like this. All the mobility that you have in taijiquan with all the rotation in taijiquan, from which Pakwa was devised also partly. Right. So this is usually considered the southern style because you have all these different kind of moves. It's similar like with Wing Chun, when you have all these different kind of moves, because people basically walk around in their underwear. They have enough bodily space to move, so they can go in all kind of details. Which in the northern style, you have like the hook hand or something like this, which is executed in different kind of ways, like in the crane crane palm or in the grapple palm or something like this, or even in tiger palm. I've seen it. So there's different kind of things. Also, even with the open hand, like in the Wu style, right? There's the open hand both sides. Because then the idea is that you take it between thumb and index finger on the joints. But this is a Shanghai or Southern style in a way, which has been executed at a certain point like that. Because Wu style is not exactly from the south, but is also not exactly from the north, what I understand. But in the Wudang Mountains, you see that they also make this division. So when they start teaching people, usually they learn northern style, which is the simplified movements with open palms and stuff like this. But at the moment when you go deeper, actually you move also gradually towards the southern style, where you, from taijiquan, you go to taiyi, taihe, taisu, and so on, different kind of styles, where sometimes in some forms there's more grappling and stuff like this, and there's more finger work, like in the longmen taijiquan. You have also a lot of hand forms in there, and a lot of deity ideology, you can say, in the movements. Also, one of the forms that I actually gave, and it is part of the master program actually, to maybe start giving it as class, but then I first have to have many more students, because otherwise, because these are difficult forms to learn. They take a long time to really properly learn. There's also the idea in Tai Chi Chuan, like palms first or body first, right? So do you move something with your body, or do you move something with your hands? Do you follow your hands with your body, or do your hands get pushed forward by the body? And of course, when you do the Southern style, hand first seems logical. So you make a move and your body has to adjust for that. So very often they associate the hand first with the Southern style, right? But we also call this beginner style, right, at the same time, ironically, because it's not necessarily beginner style, because it's also advanced style at the same time, right? But you go through different stages where you exchange between body first, palm first, and so on, to get the particular understanding of your physical body. At the moment when you say your body first, that basically means you use your jing, right? And you use your jing, the coherence of your body, and then the jing drives the jing, right? So you hear me talk about that many times when we are practicing, like make sure that the jing is coordinated, you're standing on your heels, and like also even in the bamboo formula Qigong, which is very simple, it's clearly a northern style of Qigong. But at the same time, it is also a body first practice, because the body drives the palms, right? But at the moment, when you go in the Tongwu Qigong, you go deeper into the meditation, then all of a sudden you come into things like Lingbao school and Shangqing school, which have been absorbed in Chuangzhen practice. And then you come more into the mystical part of practice and the cosmological identity building, you can say, in your self practice, in your self cultivation. And it's with Tai Chi Chuan the same. So at the moment when you do this kind of Taoist practices like Tongwu Qigong, and you do your Tai Chi Chuan, all of a sudden your Tai Chi Chuan gets completely different meaning. So your body starts moving in a different way. That's also why all the auxiliary practices, they are actually so important for Tai Chi Chuan studies, right? You can't really learn Tai Chi Chuan through Tai Chi Chuan study, ironically. Right? You have to do all the auxiliary things like Wudang fitness. You have to do the fitness practice to make sure that you're agile enough, and some other to have more enough balance. And like for instance, in the play yoga, you have to develop enough openness in all the different body parts. And in the breath yoga, that your breath is that your lungs are not afraid of anything, basically, right? So that you can open up your body. You always find air sometimes inside yourself. So at the moment, and when you go further with like things like Tongwu Qigong, so at the moment, then when you see these kind of practices, you see that how you say that? You basically cycle through northern, southern, northern, southern, northern, southern, northern, southern, the same way like that you cycle through body first, hands first, body first, hands first, body first, hands first, and so on and so forth. Because you want to create a particular kind of openness. It's the same like when you do neidan meditation, you want to stimulate the yang, but you also have to nourish the yin at the same time, right? Because otherwise you will just burn yourself up, like what people do with Kundalini practice usually. right? They burn themselves up and they get all kind of hallucinations. And it's nice to have hallucinations. I mean, nothing against it, but you have to be balanced enough to also stay calm and rational in it, and you shouldn't get into sort of ecstasy like that. And then you have to understand that this part actually is part of the training in Wudang Mountains, but then it has to be integrated into your Tai Chi Chuan to make sure that you become more aware of your opponent, so that then it becomes a mystical practice. And it's not even about fighting them anymore at that moment, but it's just about getting to know another person. And that is, of course, the whole intention about martial arts in the past was not so much fighting, because it was part of the world of officers and courts and stuff like this, courtiers, because they had to showcase their abilities, but they didn't really have to fight. It's not like in the West where people were dueling or something like this, or dragging pistols with them to shoot each other, like in the Wild West, and at a certain point in Europe also. But they were just basically comparing, and it was not so much about winning as well as showing who is the best at something, right? And fighting was for soldiers, right? Officers don't fight. It's the Mongols who were actually fighting themselves, right? But in the Ming Dynasty, the officers didn't fight. In the Song Dynasty, the officers didn't fight. In the Qing Dynasty, the Qing were like, they were already like partly Sinified Mongols, you can say. They were a different kind of tribe, and they wanted to have a very civil society in a particular kind of way. They wanted to be bureaucratic. And they wanted to be not Chinese, but they wanted to be Chinese enough, so to say, right? And these kind of cultural values, they are underpinning the whole Tai Chi Chuan thing. So sometimes it's therefore funny. It's like, first, when you see people practice Tai Chi Chuan, they focus way too much on the forms. Right? Form's important, but all the other things are way more important, because without all the other things, the forms become empty shells, right? And then you see that they also focus too much on martial arts. And then there's this saying, which is in one of the Tai Chi classics, that fighting is for the lowest class of practice, and then when you're in the highest class, there's no fighting, because you find harmony and stuff like this. And although that, of course, is also partly true, that's maybe a remnant of old culture in some ways, you can see that through the practice of Tai Chi Chuan, you do actually develop a particular kind of skill to help yourself in emergencies, but not necessarily to become a soldier with that. Right? So if there's something going on, I've seen some students over time use some elements of what I taught them in the Tai Chi Chuan classes when they were in a crisis situation, and they were able to handle themselves. And usually just being able to make people insecure in a fight is more than enough to make a fight stop, right? Almost nobody has to really fight. And it's anyway not the idea. And the whole point of Tai Chi Chuan is to keep in control over your mental and emotional faculties, so that you do not challenge people to go further than they dare to go. Yes, because nobody really wants to hurt anybody. Nobody really wants to fight, right? Only when you are a little bit cuckoo in the mind, you really want to fight, right? You're basically a sociopath, right? Like people go MMA fighting, these are sociopaths, because they want to fight. It's not really sports anymore at that moment. They want to drive themselves to that point. Same like when they go to do a round of fighting in some foreign country or something like this. Apparently, they feel that they have to prove something about their courage or the masculinity or whatever. And it just doesn't make any sense in any humanitarian worldview to go anywhere to go fighting, like the Russian soldiers or well, in the case of the Ukrainian soldiers, to defend themselves. I mean, neither is very useful. Attacking another country is not useful, and defending yourself also is not very useful at the same time, because it costs life. And the whole point of being a civil society is that you don't fight. You avoid any form of conflict. And that is what Tai Chi Chuan actually tries to teach, is how you avoid conflict in your life, right? So at the moment when you when you learn to scale down your life to the point where all the conflicts disappear, then you have already gone through all this cycling of body first, hands first, body first, hand first, open hands, grappling, and so on and so on. So that gradually your understanding of yourself gives you enough composure that people have the feeling like, well, you never know with this person, right? That's an instinctual feeling, basically, because you are physically capable of moving, right? Which a dancer doesn't have in the same way. A dancer feels like physically capable of moving, but he or she hasn't trained to defend themselves like that. Somebody who walks around, who has been doing martial arts movements, even though they don't know how to defend themselves, they still radiate the ability to make these kind of moves, right? And that's basically it. It's like nuclear weapons. It's like a sort of show off to show, like, look, I can do that, but you can't really. Right, and I think that is the most clear answer to your question about Tai Chi Northern and Southern style, because the Northern and Southern style is not just standing by itself. It is part of the whole development of Tai Chi Chuan, which has been divided in Northern and Southern style, because some people emphasize this part, some people emphasize that part, and technically, like I mentioned, this whole litany of forms like Tai Chi Chuan and Tai Yuan and Tai He, Tai Su, and so on. All these kind of things are all very interesting. But if you go through your Tai Chi Chuan routine, just by your Tai Chi Chuan routine, because of all the time cycling and cycling and cycling, you go through these different kind of stages. And what happened with these styles is at a certain point, people started formalizing principles of a particular kind of experience in Taoism, and then it devolved into forms, right? So you do Tai Chi Chuan, let's say you're coming here with the thunder fist, right? Like this, you open up, and then you come in here and you have the fist. And this is clearly Southern style because the movements are simple and plain, and everything is only very close. But if it would be like a Tai, then everything becomes very different. Because then at that moment, you come here, right? You come in here, and you see, then all of a sudden, this opening is something completely different. So at the moment when you come in, right? See, you see all the different details that are added to it at that moment. So it's basically means hand first or body first, also at the same time. Because when you go body first, your body drives your hands, right? And the hands make it easy. You go sideways, your body goes and your hands just follow, right? Then you come in, if it is body first, right? Body first, right? Then your fist comes up, but it's your body that pushes up your fist because your body throws up your fist. And when it comes down, right? Palm lifts it up. The palm drives it. But if it is hand first, it is like your hands go first, and then your body finishes it, right? You come back, your hands move, and your body follows it. So then the movement actually can be more far. See? Hands first, body follows it, right? Tender. Because you make this move, see, the body basically follows the move. See, the fist comes, and the body follows the fist. You see, so then this one actually, the fist moves your body direction also at the same time. Yes?
Most people do their Tai Chi like that, but not unintentionally.
Yeah, because they've seen somebody do it, they copy it, and that's it.
So they don't.
That's part of the devolving process.
Yeah. So they don't know whether, well, they just do the hand movements, and they naturally, their body follows their hand, but they don't know that's what they're doing, and then maybe they learn to do it the other way around, and then. It's
similar like you have the military style, like Sun Nutang. Everybody reverse Sun Tang very much. This would be Sun Tang style, right? Let me see. Yeah. Because he is very precise in his movements. Right, so he steps by all the time, and as a result of that, you get a completely different kind of principles in your moves.
Yeah, I could see that very clearly where your body was following and when the body was behind it.
Yeah.
But most people, when they look at Tai Chi, they have no idea that's what they just.
Yeah.
I think you have to do Tai Chi quite a long time to see that.
Yeah, I'm afraid so, yes.
And play turtle. Moving around. Scoop. Move your elbow backwards, palms outward, with your left arm, right hand, middle finger points forward. Then hit with your elbow and cut with your palm. Push with your lower palm. You go for your right shoulder. Turn around. And catch a bird in flight. Right foot is empty. Rip the tail off. Point towards elbow. Sink. Make a half step. Press against the wall. Step in. Make a T. Step out. Pull down. That's a T. With a split. And pull it down. Roll back. That's a T. Going sideways with the down fin. And fold inward. Lift up your opponent, your imaginary boyfriend's arm. And fold yourself around the arm, shoulder, face. And throw away. Downward and away. Then catch a bird on the left. Again, left foot empty. Grip open. Turn your left foot. Step out and surround somebody's ankle. Push against the wall. In. Out. In. And again, step out. Pull down. Roll back. Fold. And lift the arm. Hand press. And sink. And lift up. Swinging like a crane. Lift up your foot. Crane dancing. Trying to be beautiful for another crane. And another one. Lifting. High. Stepping. Turning. Close the wings. Press down. Outside of the knee. Scoop. Twist. Go backwards. Fold. Move backwards in your hind leg. And lift up. Scoop. Bigger scoop. And now you move backwards. Fold. Block. Cross. Swipe. When you swipe, you open, you take step backwards and slap. Young rises towards the left hand, slap with the left hand, slap with the right hand, and look past the left hand. Move backwards, claw with your left hand. Step backwards, claw with your right hand downward. Then at the moment when you have clawed, press forward, step outward, elbow. Push upward. Sink. Up. Step out. Yin yang palm. Lean backward, shoulder push. Come back. You see here this movement? Just did. Inward. Fist. Lean in. Shoulder push. Come inward. Block with the elbow. Block with the elbow. Inward. Rotate. Rotate. Open. Open your palms. Move outward. Middle finger taken over. Rotate the palms around the tip of the middle finger. Lift and embrace hand. Follow heaven going downward through your body into the earth. All the way to the earth. Take heaven and earth together and lift up into the Dantian. Elbows wide. Tie your hand fall.